Yeah, Man City versus Liverpool. Man City in their second, 8 points behind Arsenal, and Liverpool are in sixth, but still got a great chance of a top four. I tell you what, beginning of the season, we've been talking about this being a title decider. Well, it's not a title decider. It's got huge significance. But the way Liverpool have been this season are off the pace.
Well, that's it. I mean, you're listening to TalkSport, you look at Sky, everyone's billing it as the biggest game, but then it just depends what Liverpool turn up. Nobody knows what Liverpool team are going to turn up. Is it going to be the team that put 7 past United, or is it going to be the team that went to Bournemouth a week later and got beat? So you don't know. You could bill this as a title decider, because I genuinely think if Man City don't win this, I think Arsenal have done it. I think they're there. You know, there's 10 games to go, whatever it is. They're 8 points clear at the moment, Arsenal, because City had the FA Cup game last weekend. Arsenal managed to extend their lead before the international break, This is massive for Manchester City. It is a must-win for them. They can't lose and they can't draw. I think if they lose or draw this City, I think it's over, and I think he turns all of his attentions to the Champions League. It's a huge game. I mean, this is probably one of the hardest games to predict this weekend. I think the only one certainty is that potentially you're going to get both teams to score, but you don't know what Liverpool's going to come, and it's a massive game, massive game.
City have got a very good record at home against Liverpool. They've only lost 1 in 13 in the Premier League at home. It was 1-0 to Liverpool at Anfield in October. What's gone wrong at Liverpool this year? Because, you know, we all thought it was going to be these two contesting for the title, not Man City and Arsenal.
Yeah, they never started well, Liverpool, did they? I mean, they played every possible game that was available to them last season. And then, you know, with the World Cup mid-season, the turnover of players, I think, yes, they've signed Gakpo. He's a good signing. I think he's starting to show the potential he's got. They've had a lot of injuries this season. I'm looking at the list now that they've still got a huge list of injuries, although Diaz might be back for this game. So he's getting his team together. He's short in midfield. Everyone's said it all season. They've made good signings. Van Dijk isn't having the season that we would have expected him to have, which has affected players around him. The midfield hasn't been strong. If they've got no legs in the midfield, Fabinho is having to play every week. Milner and Henderson are another year older. They can't play every week. Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, it's a big ask to ask them to play week in and week out. Basetic, now he's injured till the end of the season. So it's another problem that they're going to have. They've signed players in attacking places. And I think, listen, we've spoken about it so many times before. They miss Mane. They miss Sadio Mane. Not just because of his goals, but the work rate that he does off the ball. Mo Salah's not going to go and press. He's not your high press. Núñez is not going to do the same. But the work that Mane used to do off the ball, they've missed that, and they've missed that trigger, and they haven't had the legs in midfield to back that up this year. They've had a stop-start season, but they're still capable of beating teams and beating teams well, as we've seen.
And their away record is awful.
Yeah.
30 points at home, just 12 points from 13 games away from home. That's very un-Liverpool-like.
Yeah, very un-Liverpool-like. And the games that they've lost, I mean, going to Bournemouth and losing, I sat here last week and said it's an absolute, before the international break, it's an absolute banker. That probably bust a lot of people's accas, mine included. And that was the early game, I think, as well. And it ruined, we all had to go back and do another acca because of that game. But yeah, away form's been poor. The games that they've lost, you wouldn't expect them to lose. But against City, they've beaten them twice already this year. This year, they've taken the Community Shield off them. They've beat them at Anfield. And they always step up for Manchester City. They always turn out. I was listening to Noel Gallagher on the radio this morning, and City fans are worried about this game because they know, regardless of what Liverpool have done all season, they know that they'll turn up for this game. It's going to be a massive game. I'm just disappointed it's 12 o'clock on a Saturday. You don't really get good games early on a Saturday. After an international break, we've got people potentially injured. You're not going to have your full squad, and an early start on a Saturday. But listen, if you're going to try and get a good game, you put these two together.
As we record this, Haaland, I think, is probably a doubt. He had a groin injury, didn't he? He missed the Norway game. He didn't train yesterday. And look, if there is any doubt about Haaland, 42 goals this season, by the way, which is phenomenal. Pep's not going to play him with the Champions League around the corner, is he?
No way. They've got Bayern in the Champions League. Yeah. We all know the hard side of the draw that they're on in the Champions League. And this game's vital, though. You've got to wonder. But if anything, a muscular strain like that, if he plays him in one game and loses him for 10, he'd rather not play him in this game and keep him for the remainder of the season. But listen, he's a huge player, and they've scored different goals with him in the side this year. But let's not forget, Manchester City won the league last year without a number 9. Look at where the goals come from. So he'll revert back to that tactic. If he doesn't play, he'll play with a false 9. So if Haaland doesn't play, the goal scorer market will be blown wide open. You've got a load of potential on the City side. Another big miss for City, who's just finding his feet this season, at a late stage in the season, Phil Foden. He's had surgery to have his appendix out, so I think he's going to be missing till the end of the season. Yeah. But then you look, Grealish as a starter, Mahrez then comes into it, De Bruyne into the goals market. If Haaland doesn't play, the goal scoring market will be wide open.
Salah, 15-2 to score the first goal. He's scored in all 3 games against Man City this season in the league, the Cup and the Community Shield. Haaland, if he does start, 42 goals, which is phenomenal, isn't it? The record for a Premier League campaign is Ruud van Nistelrooy and Salah, both with 44. If Haaland does start, he's 2-1 to score first when you've got Salah at 15-2. What a difference. Right, come on, prediction time then for the big early kick-off.
I don't like this weekend. I look at all the fixtures this weekend. There is going to be a lot of disappointed punters at the end of this weekend looking at Accas. I mean, there's so many games that are hard to call, and I think this is the hardest. City should win. I've got City to edge it 2-1. I think both teams will score. I think City will edge it 2-1. Will they miss Haaland? I think they will. Will Liverpool turn up? Yeah, I do think they will. I think it'll be a really tight, close game. But you look at the players on the pitch, it's very, very hard to argue that both teams won't score. So I've gone both teams to score and City to win by 1.
2-1 Man City is Paul's prediction. Right, let's move to the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Top of the table, Arsenal versus Paul's old club, Leeds. And you didn't have a good time playing for Leeds at Highbury, did you? It's been a very, very tough place to go for Leeds over the years.
Yeah, we picked up one very famous win when we beat them 3-2, and we stopped them winning the title, and it kept us in the league. So from a Leeds point of view, it was difficult because it gave Manchester United the league title, but it also kept us in the Premier League, which was a huge win.
That was the last win for Leeds over Arsenal.
I've got a few lasts, like a dinosaur like me. The last time that Leeds won at Highbury, obviously our Arsenal away, the last time Spurs lifted a trophy. It's about time some of these modern day players stepped up a bit, isn't it? But listen, it's massive ask for Leeds.
Will Leeds have obviously one eye on Nottingham Forest on Tuesday night at home?
Mark, they've got 2 huge games next week, Leeds. They've got Forest at home on Tuesday and they've got Crystal Palace at home the following weekend. This, for Leeds, I hate the saying, I really hate it, but it's a free hit.
A bonus game.
It's a free hit, yeah. If they come away from the Emirates with anything at all, it's massive. They're capable of doing it. They went to Wolves last week, before the international break, and put 4 in. I mean, the record's been up and down.
Could that be the turning point for Leeds then? Because they were creating chances but not scoring.
Yeah.
So to put 4 past Wolves, could this be a turning point now?
Yeah, it could be, because goal scoring was their main problem. They played Brighton at home, they drew 2-2. They got 2 in that game. They put 4 in away at Wolves, which is, it's no mean feat, because Wolves under Lopetegui are a different animal. So it was their best performance of the season, I'd say, away at Wolves. Yes, it could be a turning point, but I think this could hurt them. Yeah. They've got to go there and they've got to put in a performance. Come away with a respectable 1-0 defeat, 2-0 defeat, but put in a performance. Go there and try and win. Obviously, they've got the players to do it. Press Arsenal high. We saw what Bournemouth did to Arsenal. Bournemouth were 2-0 up at the Emirates. 97th minute winner from Arsenal was what got them the points. Leeds are capable of putting in a performance like that, but they have to go there. They can't be wide open because this Arsenal team will tear them apart.
And no Tyler Adams is a huge blow.
No Tyler Adams. He's been playing Bamford up front. Rutter's not getting a game. Tyler Adams is a huge blow. Max Wober's come back from international duty. He's not fit, so Liam Cooper's going to come back in at centre-half, you would expect. Defensively, Leeds, you don't know. I mean, that Wolves game was their first away win since October. That's how poor that Leeds have been on the road. But they've won 2 of the last 6 Premier League. Another one that's a massive miss that I've missed out for Leeds, Gnonto. Gnonto got injured on international duty with Italy, so he potentially won't play. So they're going to have a lot of players missing, which the manager will have one eye on Tuesday, and he'll want to get them fit for what is 2 6-pointers.
Leeds are 14th. So tight at the bottom. Leeds on 26 points.
But by the end of the day, Saturday, they could be in the bottom 3. That's how tight it is. It really is. It's so tight.
How worried are you about your old club, Leeds?
Yeah, they're in a relegation battle. I'm looking at the league from Palace downwards. Palace are 12th. And you look at figures at the side of the league table, you think, 12th, 13th are safe. Nobody from 12th downwards is getting out of it. This is going to happen now till the end of the season. This is not just a 2 or 3 team relegation battle. This is between everyone from 12th downwards, and there's nobody that can pull away because of the fixtures. Yeah, Leeds are right in the mix.
Come on then, give us a prediction for tomorrow.
Listen, I think it'd be a comfortable win for Arsenal. I think I'm looking at their record. They've scored at least 3 in their last 4 games, which will be a worry for Leeds. They beat Leeds 1-0 at Ellen Road. They've got a couple of injury worries, but this will be Arsenal's 7th win in a row, and I think they'll do it comfortably. I think it'll be a 3-0 Arsenal win.
And if City drop points playing at 12:30, that'd be a huge fillip.
It'd be a massive lift for them if they see that first. Yeah.
Next 3 o'clock kickoff: Bournemouth versus Fulham. Bournemouth's last home game, you mentioned it earlier, they beat Liverpool 1-0.
Yeah, they seem to be digging out performances for Gary O'Neill. I mean, a few weeks ago we sat in here and we've looked at the league table. Bournemouth and Southampton were cut adrift, but we credit to them with Gary O'Neill, with the new manager at Southampton. They've put in performances and they're both 1 or 2 points away from safety. It's a different Fulham team. Bit of a blip at the moment. They're well beaten by Arsenal last time out, which was disappointing from their point of view. But Bournemouth, I mean, they lose games that you would expect them to win. I looked at them the last time out against Aston Villa. I thought they could go there on the back of a win against Liverpool, go to Villa, get a result, and they got soundly beaten 3-0. So they're a little bit unpredictable as well at the moment. Billing's a big player for them. He's going to have to step up with his goals.
Talking about stepping up with goals, obviously Fulham imploded at Old Trafford when they were on top in that FA Cup game.
Yeah.
We know Mitrovic for a while.
No, it was embarrassing.
Huge blow.
It was embarrassing a little bit, wasn't it? I mean, we talk a lot about respect to the referees and respect to your fellow players, and the example that him and Marco Silva set, you can't do. And whatever ban they get, they thoroughly deserve, and it should be longer because it won't be enough. And it was just, I think they probably both look back at that and cringe.
Well, they probably could have beaten Man United that day. They were on top.
Could have
1-0 up.
Could have got that result against Man United, 1-0 up. And then going forward for the games that they'll miss Mitrovic, his goals are huge for them. They're obviously outside contenders for Europe, but I think Brighton and Brentford are going to beat into it.
Prediction then for Bournemouth Fulham?
Well, looking at it, the last 3 meetings between these two teams, both teams have scored. 3 of the last games together, more than 3 goals in the game. So it's a definite both teams to score, but I think the home team will edge it. 2-1 Bournemouth.
2-1 Bournemouth. They won a last home game against Liverpool, which we mentioned. Right, you mentioned these clubs. Brighton played Brentford, 7th versus 8th.
Who'd have thought it? With a real opportunity of European football for both of them. I think Brighton have got the superior goal difference out of the 2. But I've just been really impressed with De Zerbi when he's come in, what he's done. They lost Graham Potter to Chelsea, as we know. But Brighton as a club, as a structure, as a whole entity, what Paul Barber's done there, their recruitment, you look at the players that they've got. Evan Ferguson's come through the academy ranks. You look at Matoma, the signing that they've got. Solly March looks a different player again this year. The way that club evolves, the way that they bring the players through, the recruitment, the manager, I've been really, really impressed with them. As well as Brentford. Listen, Brentford, the absolute role model for any team that comes up out the Championship to stay in the Premier League.
Come on then, prediction.
Well, looking at this, each of the last 4 between these two teams has been under 2.5 goals. Brighton, 3 of their last 6 games have been under 3 goals. Brentford, 5 of their last 6 have been under 2.5 goals. 1 of the last 7 between these two, both teams to score. So I'm not expecting many goals. So I've gone for a very, very edgy 2-0 Brighton win.
2-0 Brighton.
Under 2.5 goals, but 2-0 to Brighton.
Someone's done the research. I'm loving these stats.
I always
Paul.
work hard. You know I work hard for you.
Loving these stats. Right then, someone who is going to have to work hard, although he's retired and getting his pension, Roy Hodgson is taking over at Palace. They're 12th, but as you mentioned, they are in a relegation fight because it is so tight from 12th onwards. Palace have not won a game for ages. Leicester at home.
Yeah.
Couldn't have a better start, could he?
Well, it's you don't know. Leicester are unpredictable, aren't they? I mean, they're on a real down at the moment, but then they go and get a result last week, 1-1 at Brentford. They've not got any results in the capital for a long time. Go to a really informed Brentford and dig out a draw. The worrying thing for Palace is they're on a really bad run. Palace have lost the last 4 straight, which is really worrying for Roy Hodgson. I wasn't convinced by the appointment. I know he knows the club and he knows the majority of the squad and the players.
12 games without a win now.
But I think that Patrick Vieira could have kept him in the league. I really do. I look at the run of games that they've got coming up.
I remember watching him at Anfield and thinking they were decent at the beginning of the season. It just doesn't seem to have gone for him.
No, and what's happened is when the pressure's started, when the pressure's hit, they've played some really poor football. Honestly, they've been one of the worst teams to watch in the Premier League this season. If they were in my back garden, I wouldn't open the curtains to watch them some of the times they were playing. They've been a really, really dour watch, which is surprising with the amount of attacking players that they've got. Leicester have got a really good record against Palace. I was looking at it. They haven't lost any of 7 games they've played against Palace. I think it's a 1-4 and drawn 3, something like that. And they've got a really good record at Selhurst as well. So don't write off Leicester in this one because it'll be a really edgy, cagey affair. This, like many others this weekend, is a 6-pointer.
Come on then, score.
5 of the last 6 for Palace, under 2.5 goals. 3 of the last 5 for Leicester, under 3 goals. A lot of draws for Leicester. I think it's going to be very, very cagey. I think it'll be a 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw.
But
for
under goals.
Yeah, 1-1 draw for Paul Opta Robinson. Loving his stats. Loving his stats. Right, Nottingham Forest versus Wolves. Now, both teams have only scored 22 goals this season.
Yeah,
which
low
is
scorers.
The worst return in the Premier League.
I think there's probably only Everton that was in and around that.
Everton
with
at
them
22 as well.
Yeah, there's around that as well. I mean, but Forest at home have been very good. I think the defeat against Newcastle last time out was their first home defeat since last October, and their home form is going to be what keeps Forest in this league, because away from home they've been really poor, bordering on it's almost a given back the home team against Forest. But I mean, at home, this again, it's a massive 6-pointer. Wolves were really poor last week against Leeds, putting their worst performance of the season, conceding 4 goals. It looked like they
turned a corner, Wolves, as well, hadn't
they? They did, and I can't see a manager like Lopetegui accepting a performance like that. Yeah. Núñez is going to be missing for them because he's suspended, so he's going to be a really key player for them. But I think you look at what Forest have got in Gibbs White. I watched him for the under-21s the other night. He was impressive. Shelvey in the middle of that midfield. But Brennan Johnson, for me, he's been really impressive there, playing out wide, playing off the striker.
I thought he might have played more at the World Cup for Wales.
Yeah, I thought he might have got more of a... He will do eventually. He'll come into that side. I'm looking at his stats. He's got 3 in the last 7. He's their top goal scorer on 7 goals. So he's a decent bet for a goal at any time, is Brennan Johnson.
Scoreline then?
Both teams to score for Forest in 4 of the last 5, and Wolves 3 of their last 5. I think it's going to be a big ask for Wolves to go to Forest. I've gone for a comfortable home win, 2-0 Forest.
And then Forest go to Leeds on Tuesday night, which is a massive game. Right, your 5:30 game, Chelsea versus Aston Villa. Chelsea now unbeaten in the last 4. They're in the last day of the Champions League. Has it finally turned a corner for Graham Potter?
Well, you think that, and then they go and lose an advantage to Everton last time out at home. An Everton team that, again, ruined a lot of people's accas last week, because I think Chelsea at home, Everton away, their form's been really poor. Chelsea look to have turned that corner. Champions League performances, league performances, all of a sudden it looked to be kicking into place. And then they showed the defensive frailties against Everton. Listen, I think they're a lot closer than where they were, say, 6 weeks ago. But I looked at Graham Potter's injury list this morning. The injuries that he's carrying, again, are huge. But I mean, you can't feel sorry for him. He's got 50 players, hasn't he, at his disposal. So you can't feel too sorry for him. I think they have turned the corner, but I don't think they're anywhere near the finished article yet. The interesting thing for me we spoke about is Lukaku. End of the season, I know we're going off topic a little bit. Yeah. Does he come back into that mix? They're crying out for a number 9. Everyone says Chelsea lack a number 9. Does Lukaku come back under Graham Potter, a different player, a different person? That's one to watch.
Scoreline for the 5:30 kickoff live on Sky on Saturday night.
Villa have been really impressive away from home. I backed Bournemouth to go and get something at Villa Park before the international break, simply because Villa have got nothing to play for. They're mid-table, they're not pressing for Europe, they're not going to get relegated. They're almost, for that phrase, they're on the beach, but then they go and put 3 past Bournemouth. John McGinn's been impressive. They're playing with a freedom that allows them to be mid-table, that there's nothing to play for. The last 6 games that Villa have been involved in have all had more than 3 goals, at least 3 goals in the games. So there's going to be goals in this one. I think Villa can cause Chelsea problems. I'm going to go for a 2-1 away Villa win. I think they can cause Chelsea problems.
Sorry, Graham Potter, 2-1 Aston Villa. Let's move on to Sunday. West Ham, Southampton, 2 o'clock. 18th versus 20th. I tell you what, watching West Ham, it seems to be 3 steps forward, 4 steps back at the moment.
Won't be watching this weekend. This is the most unattractive fixture on the Premier League weekend. I mean, this is going to be a really tight, cagey affair. There's 2 teams here that can't afford to lose. I'm looking at it, 3 of their last 5 meetings have had under 2.5 goals. And that's regardless of what league position they were in. And I mean, now they're both fighting for their lives at the bottom of the league. It's not going to be a pretty watch, this. David Moyes, for me, they've been given the opportunity to turn it round at West Ham, and I think he deserved that opportunity. I just don't think the signings have worked for him this year. Souček's not been the same player. They've got more than enough to stay in the league. Out looking at the bottom of the table, I know they're in the bottom 3 at the moment, but looking at the teams down there, I think they're ones that will get themselves out of it. But I can't see this being a good match. I mean, Southampton, they seem to have turned a corner. They've got clean sheets at Old Trafford, clean sheet at Stamford Bridge. So defensively, they had a fantastic comeback, as much as it pains me to say it, against Spurs. The famous Antonio Conte rant. Southampton were the cause of that, a 2-2 draw against Spurs. So they're in a different place, and they'll make it difficult for West Ham. I just think this will be a really poor game, I do.
What score, though?
Well, 2 of the last 3 in all competitions, under 2.5 goals for West Ham. 4 of the last 5 in all competitions, under 2.5 goals for Southampton. This got a really poor draw written all over it. It's a low scoring 1-1 or 0-0. Go 1-1.
4:30, Newcastle versus Manchester United. Met in the League Cup final, of course, 2-0 to Manchester United. 0-0 at Old Trafford earlier on in the season. No Casemiro for Manchester United. They're still banned, but they've got high-flying Scott McTominay to come in. What a international break he's had.
Unbelievable, wasn't it? Unbelievable goal-scoring record.
He started life as a striker.
He did, but his first two were even more impressive because he came off the bench and scored them. So I don't think there'll be many people that would have had him for first goal scorer. Whether he plays this weekend or not, we're yet to be seen. Potentially will, because Ten Hag likes the same system. Very rarely does he go away from that two holding midfielders. And I think after his form in the international break, he's got every opportunity of starting.
What kind of game can we expect then? I mean, it's going to be a brilliant atmosphere at St James's Park.
As it has been all season, I've been up there a couple of times. The focus has changed there. The expectation has changed, because with success comes expectation. So now there is starting to become a little bit of pressure on them. They're in a situation in the league now, look at where they are, the 5th, but they've got games in hand. I think they're in pole position to take 4th place, I really do. Looking at the fixtures they've got, Liverpool are so unpredictable. Spurs have slipped up by the managerial appointment, in my opinion, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Talk about in a minute, yeah.
And I think Newcastle have got a real opportunity to. They haven't beaten Man United in the last 6 games, though. But if they beat Man United now, they go 3rd on goal difference. So there's a real incentive for Newcastle, there really is.
What score for the 4:30 kick-off on Sunday?
I'm wondering where Man United's focuses are, because I'm looking at the semi-final against Brighton, the Europa League last 16 against Seville, and then we know they've got Juve if they get past Seville. They'll get past Seville, by the way, because they're really poor at the moment. I think this is a really tight one to call. I just like the timing of this game. I like where it is, the two teams, where they are. I think this has got a great game written all over it. There's goals, both teams to score. I've sat on the fence, 2-2, but I've written cards here. One of the big things in this game for me, anybody who likes the cards market, Stuart Atwell's refereeing, so there's cards everywhere. Joe Linton's coming back from a suspension. Take your pick. Go for yellow cards. Stuart Atwell, Joe Linton, Gomeres, Shah, Byrne, Man United, Fernandes, guaranteed a card. He'll start moaning if they lose. Anthony, Martinez, Varane, Shaw. There is a number of potential yellow cards in there. And with Stuart Atwell in a cracking game, this has got goals and yellow cards all over it.
And he's going for 2-2.
2-2.
Right. We probably haven't got enough time to talk about what's going on at Spurs. Obviously, we had the Conte rant after the draw at Southampton. He has now gone. Should we have a Paul Robinson rant?
Where do you start? I mean, the club is in a position where it's not ideal. That's putting it politely. I mean, they're in a mess. They've got rid of the manager, and now the sporting director or the football director, whatever you call him, has been banned from football across Europe for however long. So it's a ship without an udder. There's nobody rowing the ship in the right direction. I mean, they've got massive games coming up. There's still an opportunity of finishing 4th. How on recent performances, I don't know. But they've got the manager who's gone. Yeah, I think it was time for him to go. I think what he said was good, was refreshing. I enjoyed listening to him, but I think his time was up. Spurs were boring to watch. They were playing the same system week in and week out. They were so predictable. It was the 3 at the back, the 2 holding midfielders, 2 players in behind Harry Kane. There was no surprise with them. Teams could work all week on playing against Tottenham and know probably 10 of the 11 starters in the team and how they were going to play. It was boring, it was predictable. The AC Milan game at home was the final straw for me. You always try and give managers the benefit of the doubt, and I did like Conte, and I thought he was a great manager and was going to be a good fit. Draw 0-0 to AC Milan in the game that you've got to win. Go down to 10 men and take a centre-half off and put a centre-half on and take off Kulusevski. I think his time was up, it was done. But have a contingency plan. You're talking about Luis Enrique, potentially. You're talking about Pochettino. You're talking about Nagelsmann. None of those 3 managers are in jobs. Go and get them now. I know they'll turn around and go, well, we'll maybe wait till the summer. We might have better offers. Go and give them a better offer. Go and get the manager that you want now. You're going to get a new manager bounce between now and the end of the season. Worst case scenario, you don't get a new manager bounce, but this manager gets a quarter of a season to look at the squad of players that he's got and assess the players as in technical ability, what he wants, and what they're like as people. So he gets to go in the training ground, and then he goes into the summer window, into the summer break. He knows what he wants to do to his squad without already going in there and thinking, well, I might do this, and cutting his time down, if you see what I mean. You know who you want, go and get him. The 3 names that I mentioned, I wouldn't get either of them. I'd go for Vincent Kompany. I'd try and get him. I think he's been so impressive. Spurs need stability. They need a base. They need some foundation to build on. They've tried 2 win-now managers in Jose and Conte. That hasn't worked. Vincent Kompany's capable of winning now, but he's also capable of playing a style of football and the brand of football and developing players and getting a squad of players together. And he's such an exciting young manager. And from what I hear from Burnley, from inside the club, his passion, his drive, his commitment, the hours that he puts in, his focus is incredible. I'd get him at the end of the season, but if they're not going to get him, go and get your manager now because he's out of work.
So you were saying they need to get a manager now.
Yeah.
But your number one choice would be to wait to the end of the season.
Yeah.
And get Vincent Kompany.
I wouldn't have put Stellini in charge or Ryan Mason. You just putting Conte's men in. You've sacked a manager. You've now put a coach in charge who delivers Conte's message every day of the week and does his training sessions. Listen, I know the players like him and respect him, but I just think you've got to have a new voice in there, freshen it up a little bit if they want a new manager bounce. My opinion is to go and get Kompany. You can't get him now until the end of the season, but my actual belief is they won't go and get Kompany. And if they don't, if they're going to get Pochettino or Nagelsmann, my bugbear is why not go and do it now? But that's Tottenham. And that's why they are where they are. I'm fed up of hearing about this world-class stadium, world-class training facilities. We've even got a racetrack in the stadium. Daniel Levy can't be criticised for the business model off the pitch. It's incredible. It's just not been right on the pitch.
What about this game then on Monday night? Spurs have been a bookmaker's friend, of course, because we never know what Spurs are going to turn up. Everton unbeaten in 3, 2-2 at Chelsea last time out in the Premier League.
Yeah, they'll take massive confidence from that, and they'll take massive confidence from just looking at the league table, because we were at the bottom when Sean Dyche came in, and what he's done there, he's made them hard to beat, made them resilient. Their home form has been impressive. Listen, they're not a good watch, but they get balls into the box. They put opportunities there. They have set plays. They try and get goals in other areas, because we know that Calvert-Lewin's not going to be fit every week. We know that they struggle for goals. Demarai Gray's come back into the team now. Dwight McNeil's been an important part, but their goals will come from set plays and determination. There's one thing that Everton won't stop. It will be a really difficult game for Spurs on Monday night. It'll be a tough place to go, and I think Everton can beat them.
What score?
Listen, I think it'll be a really tight game. I think Spurs are a rudderless ship at the moment. Be interesting to see what Spurs turn up, whether they'll be shackles off, playing open, attractive football like we've wanted to see all season.
Richarlison looked like a world beater.
Richarlison, I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get, or who, what personality you're going to get. But I think from an Everton point of view, they'll be structured, they'll be solid, they'll be hard to beat, and they'll make it ugly for Spurs. Quality-wise, Spurs should win. Actual want to win, will to win and desire, I think Everton will want it a little bit more. I think it'll be a cagey 1-0 win to Everton.
I tell you what a weekend of football we've got ahead. But let's just, before we finish, let's just recap. Obviously, huge Spurs story this week. So you would wait for the end of the season and go for Vincent Kompany.
Absolutely. Vincent Kompany would be our number one choice for that job, yeah, because of the age that he's at, what he's done with Burnley, the way that he's recruited players, the way he's changed their style of football. Listen, they've won that league. I mean, we're recording this on Friday. They play Sunderland tonight. If they win tonight, they're 6 points from promotion already. All they need is 6 more points. Nobody's going to catch them, but to make it official, they need 6 more points. He's done an incredible job there in a very, very tough league. He would be my choice for the next manager. I don't think they will, but I think they should seriously consider it. Well,
yeah, you've upset all the Burnley fans before they play tonight. Paul, thanks very much for your company. It's a huge weekend of football. Starts at 12:30 with Man City versus Liverpool. And then even Monday night, Everton versus Spurs. Absolute crackers to look forward to. Thanks for watching.